Good afternoon. Um, First of all, I know we have like a little bit of time as we wait for Njeri to join us. I would like to introduce my panel, but I will just mention their names, and you can always check for their bios in the program. I will start from. Wow, see now that is the problem of being the youngest on the panel. I will start with Mr. President Gaston Kenfak. He's the president of Africa Arbitration Association. You will read more of his bio later on. Then I will go to Senior Regeru, and you will read more of his bio. And then Vice Chair Mutabingwa, he's the Vice Chair of C.Arb Rwanda. So I would invite my panel to first of all start by talking to us about what sustainable arbitration is. And at this moment, I had a very interesting conversation with Mr. Mutabingwa yesterday. And so, sir, I would want to start with you at this point for you to just give us a brief description of what we are discussing today.
Thank you very much, Samantha. Sustainability is a term derived from the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. That's the genesis of the term and the meaning. The sustainability simply refers to the ability or the means with which we accommodate or embrace the aspects relating to environmental, social, and governance standards in our practices. ESG standards are standards that are international, developed from the times of the Rio de Janeiro Convention, all through to the Kyoto Protocol, and today we celebrate what is called the Paris Agreement for climate change. These are legal instruments that are international, ratified by state parties, not all of them, but those who take environmental, social, and governance standards seriously. I happen to, apart from practicing law and arbitration and mediation, I also happen to be a UNDP consultant, legal consultant on sustainability. Let me end it there. I hope it's clear.
Thank you, Mr. Mutabingwa, for that. I'm really moving fast because you realize we have about 40 minutes left. So I'll pose my next question to the President. And we had discussed on how is the Africa Arbitration Association approaching sustainability in continental arbitration practice. So can you tell us a bit about that?
Thank you. I would first thank the organizers of this important conference. I feel very honored and I'm very happy to be here today with you. So, first of all, I'm the president of the African Arbitration Association, and in a nutshell, I would say that this is a non-profit organization which purpose is to promote African practitioners and African arbitration institutions within Africa and even outside Africa. The panel before ours stressed the fact that there are more brilliant African practitioners in arbitration, but they are less promoted than they should be. And one of the goals of our association is precisely to promote them and also to promote African cities as site of arbitration. Now, the question posed to me as to whether the APA deals with green arbitration because it is what we are here to talk about. I would say the AFA has not yet built a specific policy on green arbitration, but as far as green arbitration is concerned, I can say the AFA is environmentally friendly. Why? Last year, our annual conference, the theme of our annual conference dealt with environmental consideration. And during the exchanges, we talked about how practicing arbitration, we should avoid all actions that could constitute threat to the environment. So by organizing a conference on green arbitration, I think the AFA is environmentally friendly. For now, I can stop here.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I move, my next question would be to Njeri. Njeri is a teacher to all of us. I believe we all know her. And she is also the Vice President of Africa Arbitration Association. What are the challenges that we are facing with the green arbitration?
Well, we've just talked about one, and that is how will we network? How will we fulfill that human desire to be close to other people and network? Yes, traveling is an issue. I think in starting off those green arbitration protocols, it's travel less. It's a big issue, whether it is domestically, whether it is internationally. And I think possibly we'll have to make exceptions when it comes to conferences. What we can do is apply those green protocols within the practice of arbitration itself. And yes, online is a good way of doing it, I guess, for when it comes to conferences, but that human touch, that wish to be with other people, that one we can't do anything about it. And you see, I can see my friend Nakasamba here. I was with her the other day in Zambia. I had to go. I couldn't do it online. I had to be present. So even for her, she has to be here, and all of you are not in favor of being online for this kind of thing. And you know, I get it. But when it comes to the practice of arbitration, there we can do better. So within any arbitration, we can practice the recycling of paper. We can ensure that we don't print hard copies of pleadings and documentation, and use instead online facilities, resources. We can do that. We can also hold hearings online. We can also not actually fulfill that need not to interact with people, okay, when it comes to the actual practice. I have to say I'm one of the stumbling blocks to my fulfilling some of those things, because when it comes to receiving pleadings and things like that, I want them in hard copy. Okay, so let me declare here now I'm a problem. But I don't, maybe it's because I'm old school. Maybe for the younger people who have, I think they're called digital natives, whereas I'm a digital immigrant. So for digital natives, perhaps for you it's easier to receive documents online, and you'll know how to annotate, to put bookmarks and things like that. But I'm still old school, so I want the hard copies. But the one thing that I have learned through this is that I could ask people, why don't you just use recycled paper, even when you have to serve me, okay, with my hard copies. That I can do. However, in doing so, I would then have to point out to the parties, please ensure that you maintain confidentiality, because you'll be photocopying documentation using paper that's from your office. So be careful that you don't give me things that you don't want me to know about, okay? So that has to be is a consideration when you come to using recycled paper. I was trying to imagine for myself what I would do in trying to migrate towards a paperless arbitration. And I've not figured that one out yet.
Njeri, while you still have the mic, I would also want you to just discuss, there's a panel that was having a discussion on AI on Tuesday, and we were talking about the challenges that we are experiencing, especially when you're having to have hearings online and things like that. So the challenges that we are facing as in practice directly, can you please highlight some of those?
Okay, AI can be helpful, but it requires a level of discipline in making use of it. That's what I think I would say. You see, what I've been saying is that if you keep your eye on the ball, which is to ensure that the service that you are being paid for is the ball, okay? And not to find ways to get round spending the time on making sure that that service is delivered in the full expectation of the parties, then it means that you're lacking the discipline to make use of AI. It can be a helpful tool, but don't let it take over your life as you drop the ball. Don't keep your eye on the ball. Keep your eye on what you're going to get once you're done or during the course of, then there's a problem. So it needs a lot of self-discipline. Like I told people at another forum, I wouldn't use AI to draft my awards. If you're not watching AI, it will lie to you. I think that's one of the cautions that you find when you're making use of AI. You see a little note there that this summary, like the one on Zoom, let's say, for example, the one on Zoom says, this summary may contain inaccuracies. Please, don't believe everything that it says. I wouldn't use I wouldn't use AI to draft my awards. I know there are people who would probably have no objection to doing so. But I don't think it is advisable. And please, if it is a service that you are giving, please, it's a personal, when you're chosen as an arbitrator, it is a personal service that you are giving. So with AI, my caution is, please be disciplined and don't make use of it to, I think, the hilt. It's a problem.
Thank you, Njeri. During I think about 2-3 weeks ago, I was in Lusaka with Njeri for the Lusaka Arbitration Week. And I happened to be sitting on a panel that was also discussing green arbitration. So there was this example that was being given about a troublesome witness. They were having online hearing, and there I was championing our online courts, which I do everywhere that I go, because I think it's a very good thing that has happened to us. It has really changed a lot for us. So, but my counterpart on the panel was giving the challenges that we are facing, especially with hearings. So he was saying this particular witness, you'd ask a question, then the screen would look like it's frozen. Yeah, but then you could hear them speaking at the background. So it looked like somebody else was giving them something to say. So with that, what they decided to do as a tribunal is to send one of the associates over to where the witness was and to have something called revolving cameras. Honestly, that was the first time I heard about that. Yeah, there is revolving cameras in the room, and with their associate from their side to be there to ensure that that particular witness was giving his testimony afresh. Yeah. So at this point, I think I would ask Senior Regeru, are you facing any of these challenges, or are all of your arbitrations in person?
Let me begin by appreciating what the sponsors, the organizers of this conference are doing. They're bringing to the center stage, to the forefront, the issue of sustainability, isn't it? In our ordinary mundane practices and so on, it's not a concept that readily comes to mind, and you may just carry on without being very consciously or proactively aware of it. But what this conference has done is to thrust it in our faces, hasn't it? And we have to pause and consider and discuss, as we are doing now, to see what are those best practices that we can deploy, how can we use these tools to better our arbitration practices, and so on. So thank you very much, and on my part, I'm really delighted to be here. Having said that, are there challenges in using some of these tools, especially the online hearings that you allude to? Of course there are, as I think in every sphere of human life. And let me say that in our jurisdiction here, we have seen a dramatic shift, a dramatic development as far as virtual hearings are concerned, beginning with the courts. And I'm not saying that merely because I've seen the Honorable the Chief Justice walk in, but since the COVID-19 days, we just had to transform ourselves overnight. If we had to continue in practice, if we had to continue dispensing justice. And to the credit of the judiciary, I don't know how they did this, but almost overnight, they put in place certain resources, certain facilities, and they were actually asking the bar, can you catch up and let's do these cases online? And again, to our credit as practitioners, as the bar, we did take up the gauntlet. We invested in technology, hardware, software, you name it, and we caught up with the judiciary. And today our online performance is, I think, very good. And in fact, if you ask many practitioners here, they would much rather continue with their virtual courts than the physical courts because of the obvious advantages. Like now, everything in our courts is filed online. Before, it used to be a nightmare. You needed to file a single sheet of document, an affidavit, you had to go to the registry, ask them to pull out the file, somebody else assesses the court filing fee, you go to the bank branch next door, you pay, then you go back to the counter with your receipt, then it is put in the file, and then, after about half a day's work, your court clerk will have a filed affidavit. Not anymore. At the touch of a button, the filing system is up, and it is running. Of course, there will be those challenges that come with technology. And as I said, it is in every sphere of life. And we just have to continue innovating and trying to address them. Some of those challenges have to do with even the limited scope of resources in our continent. And we must view some of these challenges in our African context because we are African, we're dealing with African issues, and there will be issues that are unique to us in Africa. For instance, the resources that you need to have an effective virtual platform. You're talking about substantial investment in computers and so on. Not every Wanjiko out in the street can afford this. You're talking about internet connectivity, you're talking about penetration to the villages and counties and so on. It will be limited for obvious reasons of resources and finances in our counties. You're talking about literacy levels. What is the language of the tribunal? Given the nature of our history, colonization, and so on. Look at what we are speaking here now. It is this language, a foreign language. How many people, how many Kenyans, Africans are astute and well literate in this language and all that it implies? So there will be those challenges for sure. There will be those interferences on screen. We've seen them, some mischievous people bringing in things to interrupt proceedings. But that will happen whether it is physical court or virtual court. And the judges, the magistrates know how to deal with those people. And I'm sure the arbitrators would have to devise ways of dealing with those people, shut them off, or whatever it is. But by and by, these are positive, useful tools. We cannot discard them because of challenges. We should be addressing those challenges. There are solutions to any of those problems, and we just carry on utilizing these tools that are very good for that big word, sustainability. Thank you very much.
I think one of the highlights of my pupillage was, how many know Hillside? The one that is just directly across the High Court of Milimani. You guys don't know that? Well, that's the name I found. Yes, Hillside. So, my pupil master, the late Dr. Mutubwa, used to, you go to court, you're going for a hearing, then of course you get time allocation. We are in court at 9, then time allocation is like maybe 11:30, yeah. So of course we can't go back to court. We can't go back to the office. So that would mean we go to Hillside, we have a hearty breakfast. And for a pupil, that used to be it was a highlight. So I think as much as we are saying that there are advantages to this, I feel like there are disadvantages also. Because there is a generation of maybe young lawyers, I'm speaking to young lawyers in Kenya, that will probably never experience Hillside. And it was something they had really nice eggs, guys. Okay, so I want us to talk about the available frameworks that we have. And I will also pose this question to the audience still. How many of us know about the Nairobi Declaration? Higher, I want to see the hands higher. Yeah, yes, that one, the recent Nairobi Declaration. Barbara, can I ask you to tell us about it? Just a little bit about it.
The Nairobi Declaration that I know, that was signed in 2024. This was after the regional climate weeks that were held in Nairobi, and Kenya playing a lead role, committed to sustainability, and some of the efforts were also in how to achieve net zero promise. Whether this will be actually achieved following the COP discussions later on that year, COP28, we're still waiting to see. But hopefully following the processes that we've had during this week, it is clear that Africa is capable of supporting its own net zero transition, or 30 for 30, whichever strikes our fancy.
Thank you, Barbara. So Barbara opens up the floor for that conversation, and we are going to discuss the frameworks. So Mr. Mutabingo, I would want you to take that, and then at the same time, also tell us what RWADA is doing in terms of sustainability.
Sustainability in all we do is no longer an option. It's mandatory. And the sooner we accommodate sustainability in our practices, the better. And this includes learning. Actually, the starting point is learning about it. We've gone some mileages in the case of Rwanda. And the traction comes from the public sector leadership, the political leadership, which in the first place has take solutions to the center stage in everything done within the ecosystem of the economy. With huge investments, yes, but very rewarding in due course. So talking about sustainability, the ESG standards drives us into a determination of what types of infrastructure and to what extent the investments have to be done. I will just cite an example of what my senior colleague, Rigera, mentioned regarding penetration, internet penetration. I will just jump the queue, not to begin listing, for the sake of your time, listing what it takes to migrate our services, arbitration services, to fully sustainability. Because one question that is not debatable is whether we should be taking sustainability seriously. The penetration in the case of Rwanda has gone close to 98%. Internet penetration, end to end, border to border. One would say maybe because the country is small. I agree. But even knowing... But even knowing what to do with a small size matters. Like big sizes as well, because big sizes also means big means. So it's about prioritization, so to speak. The infrastructure side, we are now using the 5G, which is just the latest model in the global market. And infrastructure is not only limited to the physical infrastructure, it's also to do with the legal infrastructure, the policy infrastructure. I must say that a credit may not be given to C.Arb Rwanda, which is a new kid in the block. It is a beneficiary of what has been done, is found to be done. For just citing cases in point, I will mention to you that in the legal infrastructure, the law of evidence and its production has been amended. We now have law number 062 of 2024. And why this has been changed from the law of 204, it's everything to do with how much our judicial systems, our dispute resolution systems must accommodate electronic means, digital means for efficiency, but also for sustainability. I must say that in the past 10 years, in my own office, I don't remember to have needed a printer. I don't remember. Not because I like it, because the time I started taking matters sustainability seriously is when I was hired as a consultant, legal consultant, when we were doing sustainable roadmap for the financial sector, and later sustainable investments for the nationally determined contributions, the Paris Climate Action, and the Kyoto Protocol. It's when I realized that there are certain expenses, office expenses, that are absolutely unnecessary, including printers in the office. How many of you are doing their jobs without printers? I'm sure there are very few here in the room. And it's just the traditionalism that keeps with us, not because we don't know how unnecessary and somehow bad for the environment it is, but because we are used to that. We came from that background and we enjoy keeping with these practices. So in reality, we need to start from the public sector side, and that's where the private practice takes shape. When I'm referring to the public sector, I'm also referring to the cyber systems that are in place. When you see people feeling safe and secure in running the business paperless and taking digital tools as useful tools, first there is reliability, and second there is security. You need to feel safe and secure with those systems. And third, it's also the know-how. When I was registering yesterday, someone came to assist me and said, you need to learn more about how to use these, what is it? The scanning, the QR. Well, I'm not sure I'm a stranger to QR. It's just that I think I was not connected on the internet within the hotel. I took the point. So basically, it's what is evolving, and In the case of Rwanda, we've got a whole bunch of laws reformed, from the cyber security system to even the criminal justice system, specific laws to sanction offenses that are cyber in nature. And that way, you realize that whatever you do is protected. And protected not only by the system itself, administratively, but also by the legal regime in place. There are challenges, of course, in this, including limited confidentiality level. There are some very intelligent people out there who may tamper with the system and access the information unduly. That is global. It's a global challenge. It's everywhere. Even banking systems can be interfered with. We've seen people who are talented in that. And there are punishments, of course, but it doesn't stop it fully from happening. And sometimes, like what happened in the room, sometimes you experience failures and pitfalls here and there. During the COVID period, we found ourselves practicing the court appearances without going to the physical courtroom. And it was because of the realities of the COVID-19. I must say there were some efficiencies, but also being able to administer the justice system, but at the same time, there were challenges to do with how we interact. Being unable to even assess the demeanor of the parties. A judge and a prosecutor, in the case of criminal matters, judge and a prosecutor physically together, and lawyers, the defense attorneys, with their clients, some of whom are incarcerated, together. So somehow it was disadvantageous to the accused, and the rights of the accused were compromised with that reality of the COVID. But it was better than not doing it at all, because there were difficult options between doing it and not doing it, yet the legal procedures were compelling that if the justice system is not running, then they get released, because their constitutional rights to be investigated while free was supposed to be respected. So they opted for this practice that is virtue. On whether virtue hearings constitute sustainability, I think I disagree. Sustainability and physical interactions are not supposed to be taken as aligned together. We may be embracing sustainability in this room, but we are together physically. The only aspects that relate to sustainability is where in traveling, we are enabling airlines to spend fuel, and fuel is hazardous to the environment. These are the factors that are within the value chain of sustainability. In the case of Rwanda, we are doing a lot of meetings virtually. We even have tools selected for certain purposes. Whenever you are participating in a meeting involving institutions of the government, they prefer Teams. They believe Teams is secure. But when we are doing other meetings, we are always, either it's Skype or these other tech tools that help to do meetings, and mostly in an efficient fashion. Because if it's 1 hour, by the end of 1 hour, it's off. It's not like what you're allowing me to do, spending all the time talking about Rwanda. Briefly.
Do you want me to stop you there?
Yes, I want to be stopped.
But then I'll stop you there.
By only saying that, yes, however much we may be accommodating sustainability in Rwanda in the practices, we still experience abuses here and there, and the legal regime seems to be helping. We have legal tools to deal with abuses. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mutabingwa. Homegrown solutions for homegrown problems. Yeah, we have all these protocols, we have all these frameworks, but I think the focus should always be on what works for us domestically, yeah? And with that, I would want to ask you, Mr. President, how can Africa be able to lead in sustainable arbitration globally? I think I wouldn't say lead, I will take that out of the question, but how can Africa promote sustainability globally?
According to me, in the practice of arbitration in Africa, we must be aware of the importance of the environment. So we should avoid any action that could be a threat to the environment. Mutabingwa has mentioned the traveling by car or by plane as example of threat to the environment, because I think they contribute to polluting the environment. And in this regard, I am also of the opinion that meetings or hearing in arbitration could be carried out online. But the problem with this option is the digital divide. You see, digital divide, to my humble opinion, is a very important constraint to be overcome in Africa, because digital development is not the same everywhere in Africa. Internet is not stable everywhere. And this is a very important issue. And I am happy the Chief Justice is here, because this is a political issue at the governmental level. You, and I humbly ask you to do so, must take all actions to make Africa really developed, let's say, for example, concerning digital development. Because, yes, the infrastructure, when you are when you are building infrastructure, make sure that even if environment will be safe, the development is really effective. Because if we want in Africa green arbitration, I mean taking into consideration the threat against the environment, the development at the governmental level, the policy should lead to effective development.
The President. And on that note, now I will ask Sineregeru, what are the structural changes or institutional changes or developments that we probably need to have in mind to ensure that sustainability is something that is not just in the future, it's something that we can have here and now?
Thank you again. Listening to my colleague to the left, spinning the statistics about Rwanda, 98% penetration, paperless offices, I felt somewhat like a dinosaur. Because in our country, in our jurisdiction, we are nowhere near close that. I must confess, we have a number of printers in our offices. We continue to spew out documents. That is the lie of the land here, and I think eventually we will get there. But the one point I agree with him also is about the need to learn, to acquire knowledge in this big, gigantic space of sustainability. There is so very much to learn, and I think we're just making baby steps, even as we come to a conference such as this. So for instance, when I got invited to come and speak to this esteemed conference, I decided, let me dig up what is in all this. And I charged my assistant, Nancy, are you there somewhere? I told her, come on, dig the dirt for me. Let me see the lowdown on this. What are the current trends? What are the big buzzwords in this sustainability debate? And you won't imagine, she churned out a lot of material. Well, it wasn't printed. It was all online. And, we looked at it, and we were able then to just get a good grasp of the current trends. And it is important that we all do. And I believe your presence here, physical here, and otherwise, is an indication that you want to learn and to incorporate best international practices to do with sustainability. And if you demystify this thing about sustainability, isn't it that even as our current generation meets its needs, we must ensure that we do not compromise the ability of future generations to meet their needs as well, isn't it? And that resonates with us as Africans because, in an African context, you don't go and hog the table and leave nothing for the children and grandchildren. We tend to be differential and make sure that we are leaving a bit for them. So whether it is reducing the carbon footprint, whether it is being environmentally friendly, all these are things that we must do. And that is where the institutions come in, the institutions that govern our arbitration practices. Some of them are here sponsoring this, NCIArb, you have our own chartered institute, there are others affiliated and others where we practice, whether it is LCIA or any others, and they really have truly been enabling, haven't they? Particularly when it became mandatory because of factors beyond our control in terms of COVID and so on. And we saw very proactive innovation of new rules aimed specifically at making it possible to carry on with our arbitration practices and do so also in a sustainable way. I don't know whether they had sustainability as their main objective, but I think it was a byproduct of the rules and the regulations that they put in place by saying you can now do your filings digitally, that you can conduct hearings virtually, you can do your teleconferencing and so on. Wittingly or unwittingly, they had the effect of promoting sustainability. And I think you find that true also in our respective practices. We do somehow, whether it is trial and error, also somehow practice sustainability every day. So let's not be too harsh upon ourselves. We do some things that we should continue to do. For instance, digitizing our records. In my firm, what we have done over the last 2 decades is to ensure that we digitize every sheet of paper and have it backed up electronically so that today, if I wanted a document that we did in 2005, all we have to do is go to the document management system, and at the touch of a button, I'm able to recall a document. Do I want to print it? Do I want to just view it online? These are then options available to us. And these are good practices to have. Let us employ them because they do help us. And remember, the bottom line always is cost saving, isn't it? As you serve the needs for sustainability, you actually reduce costs. And if that is the bottom line, then do we need too much motivation? I don't think so. It saves the coins and pennies in our pockets, and it's something to follow. And as I said, the judiciary took the lead, and we have come in, and as arbitrators, we are following through. Njeri did mention something about having one foot in the future through sustainable practices, but retaining one foot in the old world of hard paper things. So you find an arbitrator giving directions and saying, fine, file everything electronically, but make sure you serve your counterparts and the tribunal with hard copies. And I'm the first guy to confess, I routinely do this. Tribunals we sit in routinely do this. I think we must be prepared to lose sight of the shore and venture out into the big, wide open sea and begin to be more trusting to technology. If Rwanda has done this and they have paperless offices, I think it's a major mental shift that you need. That I won't see my huge files all over the walls and so on. But that is where we are headed, isn't it? And thanks to these institutions, they have started the trend, they have charted their way forward, they are facilitating, and the challenge to us as practitioners is to just comply and even expand those horizons. Thank you.
Samantha, just a quick one.
Okay.
To confirm what my brother is saying, although I spoke about internet penetration and the success stories about Rwanda, it's also about the conduct, the behavior, the choices of individuals. I'm sure some of you who are on the C.Arb panel, you've been told to produce 5 copies of hard documents, well bound, and submit physically. I don't like it, but I don't dictate how C.Arb, the Kigali International Arbitration Center, operates. That simply tells you volumes about, and it's also to do with the management. If the management is not embracing these tools, they will know it later. And this is what my brother is saying. It's possible that Kenya has this, has the infrastructure and everything, but maybe the people are not adaptive enough. So this is what's happening in Rwanda as well. Lastly, it's important, Mr. President, the African Arbitration Association, the Kenya institutions of arbitration, and all of us together, it's important we came up with a roadmap for sustainability in the arbitration practice. Thank you.
So, Njeri, I'll start with you for your closing remarks.
So for purposes of sustainability, I think you heard what I said earlier about how to integrate the green protocols into your individual practices as arbitrators, and to also have a great deal of self-discipline as far as the use of AI is concerned. However, I did talk about a summary that AI can do for you. I think in some reports you'll find an executive summary. Perhaps we can make use of AI where we have a large number of documents, and of course going through them, you're increasing the environmental impact by prolonging the arbitration. So perhaps AI can be a useful tool to provide a summary where documentation like that is concerned. But again, I urge all of you, do not make use of AI in writing your awards. That's your duty, okay? As an arbitrator, it is personal to you, and AI is not personal, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Njeri. I think we are condemned to comply with the environmental requirements, and for that we must abandon some behaviors, and for that, in the practice of arbitration in Africa, we should every time ask ourselves, is this action consistent with the protection of the environment? I think this is the way forward.
Briefly, in closing, my challenge is to each one of us. I think this sustainability journey is very personal to each one of us. And we must take it up. We must become champions. We must become stalwarts. and crusaders of this gospel of sustainability, because if we don't, who will? And we are the thought leaders here. We are the arbitrators. We are the ones who give directions to parties. We give directions to counsel, and we determine the flow and ebb of the arbitral flow. So let us realize that this begins with us, and in our respective practices, make use of those tools, do those things that will make us truly environmentally friendly in our practices and enhance sustainability. A good starting point may be the pledge that you will find amidst all this material on sustainability. This international arbitrator, Susan Greenwood, back in 2019, developed this pledge where you make a personal pledge that you will make conscious, deliberate effort to reduce the carbon footprint and to enhance in one way or another the sustainability of this process. The pledge is online, and it has a number of guiding principles, all 8 of them. I'm sure you're going to say them. My challenge to you is, please sign on that pledge. Personally, I'm committing that as we wind up this conference, I am going to pledge. Thank you very much.
Sustainability comes with efficiency and cost effectiveness. I'm a witness to that. We've subscribed to G Suite for the past 10 years, and we pay $100 a month for giving us all the tools we need. And in the office, we use Dropbox, we use SyncToy, and these two alone enables us to be able to prepare documents in teamwork, all the way up to filing. Now we are happy that in the court systems, even the execution of court's decisions are digitalized and integrated into the entire ecosystem called Integrated Electronic Court Management System. In the arbitration, we are still facing a challenge where parties may resist, CIAC may not like it, but as I said, it's a matter of a strategic nature. If we come up with another Nairobi declaration about what to do to embrace sustainability in arbitration practices, and because the attendance is beyond Africa, I believe we may come up with something more solid, and I wish that happened. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for my panel. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.